Alright. Leftovers. Mark chapter 8. In those days, the multitude being very great, and having nothing to eat, Yeshua called his disciples unto him, and said unto them, I have compassion on the multitude, because they have now been with me 3 days, and have nothing to eat. And if I send them away fasting to their own houses, they will faint by the way, for divers of them came from far. And his disciples answered him, From whence can a man satisfy these men with bread here in the wilderness? And he asked them, How many loaves have you? They said, 7. And he commanded the people to sit down on the ground. And he took the 7 loaves and gave thanks and broke it and gave to his disciples to set before them. And they did set before the people, and they had a few small fishes, and he blessed and commanded to set them also before them. So they did eat and were filled, and they took up of the broken meal that was left 7 baskets. And they that had eaten were about 4,000. And he sent them away. And straightway he entered into a ship with his disciples, and came into the parts of Dalmathua. And the Pharisees came forth and began to question with him, seeking of him a sign from heaven, tempting him. And he sighed deeply in his spirit, and says, Why does this generation seek after a sign? Verily I say unto you, there shall no sign be given unto this generation. And he left them, and entered into the ship again, departed to the other side. Now the disciples had forgotten to take bread, neither had they in the ship with them more than 1 loaf. And he charged them, saying, Take heed, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the leaven of Herod. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, It's because we have no bread. And when Yeshua knew it, he said unto them, Why reason you, because you have no bread? Perceive you not yet, neither understand? Have you your heart yet hardened? Haven't eyes see you not? Haven't ears hear you not? And do you not remember, when I broke the 5 loaves among 5,000, how many baskets full of fragments took you up? And they said unto him, 12. And when the 7 among 4,000, how many baskets full of fragments took you up? And they said, 7. And he said unto them, How is it that you do not understand? No family was sitting down at a dinner table for their evening meal, but one of the girls wasn't happy because they were having leftovers, and she complained about it. Her dad was not happy about that, and spent a few moments explaining to her that she needed to be more thankful for what she had. In order to make sure she understood his point, he decided that she should say grace, and that her prayer should show her appreciation for what she had. So she bowed her head and then prayed, Thank you for this food again. Once I read about a minister's wife who was a wonder at conserving food, and she rarely threw any of it away. At one meal, she gave her husband nothing but leftovers, and he was obviously not enthusiastic about it. He began to pick at the food as he ate a little, but he did not say grace yet. His wife smiled sweetly at him and gently said, Dear, you forgot the blessing. He looked over at her and he said, Sweetheart, if you can show me one item that hasn't been blessed at least 2 times, I can't see what another prayer could do for it. So in our story, we read about some leftovers. Mark 8, verse 8 tells us that the disciples picked up 7 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. Now, ordinarily, leftovers are foods that's been left over, and you prepare them a second time and a third time and perhaps even a 4th time. What Yeshua did in our story was a leftover. You see, Yeshua had done this food thing once before. If you back up a couple chapters in Mark, you see Yeshua doing this food thing for another crowd. Mark chapter 6, verse 34. And Yeshua, when he came out, saw much people and was moved with compassion towards them, because they were as sheep not having a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. And when the day was now far spent, his disciples came unto him and said, This is a desert place, and now the time is far past. Send them away, that they may go into the country round about, and into the villages, and buy themselves bread, for they have nothing to eat. He answered and said unto them, Give you them to eat. They said unto him, Shall we go and buy 200 pennyworth of bread, and give them to eat? He said unto them, How many loaves have you? Go and see. And when they knew, they said, 5 and 2 fishes. One of the things I find interesting about our story is that the disciples hadn't learned much from the first time Yeshua did this. It's almost identical down to the conversation Yeshua has with them in our text today. Yeshua says, if I send the crowd home hungry, they will collapse on the way, because some of them have come a long distance. His disciples answered, But where is the remote place? Can anyone get enough bread to feed them? How many loaves do you have? Yeshua asked. 7, they replied. Yeshua is serving up leftovers. He's doing his food thing again for the second time. Now, if I were a disciple with Yeshua that day, I would hope I'd have said, Hey, Yeshua, do that thing again with the food you did last time. But they didn't. And so Yeshua had to teach them the same lesson again. They had to learn the lesson all over again. It was kind of a spiritual leftover thing. But wait, there's more. Yeshua feeds 5,000 people in Mark chapter 6. Then he feeds 4,000 people in Mark chapter 8. And just a few verses after that, we read something really odd. In Mark 8:14 through 21, Yeshua barely gets done feeding the 4,000. Then he gets into a boat with the 12 disciples. They had forgotten to bring bread, except for 1 loaf that they had with them in the boat. Be careful, Yeshua warned them. Watch out for the yeast of the Pharisees and of Herod. They discussed this with one another and said, It's because we have no bread. Aware of their discussion, Yeshua asked them, Why are you talking about having no bread? Do you still not see or understand? Are your hearts hardened? Do you have eyes but fail to see? Do you have ears but fail to hear? Don't you remember when I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000? How many basketfuls of pieces did you pick up? 12, they said. When I broke the 7 loaves for 4,000, how many basketfuls of pieces did you pick up? 7, they said. He said to them, Do you still not understand? They've seen Yeshua feed 5,000 people with 5 loaves and had 12 baskets of leftovers. And they've seen Yeshua feed 4,000 people with 7 loaves and have 7 baskets left over. Now here they sit with 1 loaf and they wonder if there's going to be enough around for all of them. Why didn't they understand? They didn't understand that Yeshua could supply all their needs. Paul wrote, My Elohim will meet all your needs according to his glorious riches in Messiah Yeshua. Philippians 4, verse 19. But the disciples struggled with that. They've been there with Yeshua, fed the 5,000, and when he fed the 4,000, but they still struggled with the idea that Yeshua could supply all their needs. And frankly, we all struggle with that at one time or another. We all struggle with the faith to believe that Yahweh will supply all of our needs according to his glorious riches in Messiah Yeshua. At one time or another, this kind of doubt troubles many of us. Why does this happen to us? Well, We are used to doing things ourselves. In the old movie Shenandoah, Jimmy Stewart played the self-reliant father of a family. He would go to church, but essentially he didn't spend much time thinking about God. And at the mealtime prayer early in the movie, Stewart prayed like this: Lord, we cleared this land, we plowed it, we sowed it, and harvested it. We've cooked the harvest. We wouldn't be here and we wouldn't be eating it if we hadn't done all of it ourselves. We worked dog-boned hard every crumb and morsel, and we thank you just the same anyways, Lord, for this food we're about to eat. Amen. Towards the end of the movie, Stewart's heart changes, and he ends up going to church. But the reason I quoted that prayer is that it reflects a truth in our lives. We have to make money. We have to pay the bills. We have to make repairs on the house. We have to put gas in our cars. We have to do this and we have to do that. And Yahweh doesn't do that stuff for us. You do. It's called being a responsible individual. It's called doing what has to be done. But then something happens in our lives that we can't do. Something happens that we can't control and we can't overcome. What do we do then? You know what happens when that happens to me? I've been baptized since 1988. So I know exactly what happens when life gets hard and things get difficult. You know what I do when that happens? I get mad. I get frustrated. I go into a panic mode. I'm sorry, I know I should give you a more spiritual answer than that, but it's the truth. And if it's my fault that things are going wrong, I get really upset. But over the years I've learned to not stay upset. When I go into panic mode and when I find myself becoming frustrated and angry, I try not to let that control me. I've learned how to control those emotions by two simple disciplines. First, I pray. I tell Yahweh, I can't do this. I don't know how to fix this. I don't have any resources or power to overcome this obstacle in my life. So Yahweh, I need you to do what I can. Some of you may not have gone through cancer. I have. There's nothing I can do. I got it. Yahweh help. So don't tell me I don't know what it's like to be in trouble. And you do get scared. And you do get frustrated. And you do all these things. You think to yourself, what now? Then after I pray, I go to bed. If it's in the afternoon, I take a nap. If it's in the evening, I go to bed for the night. Doesn't matter what time of the day it is, I just go to sleep. Because I found that when I get up from that sleep, the problem is still there. But the sleep that I've had takes the edge off of my frustration. You know, I once read a story of a mother who was putting her daughter to bed. And her daughter was a little scared of something and was having trouble going to sleep. They got to talking about God, and the daughter asked, does God ever sleep? The Bible answers that question, by the way. No, he doesn't. Oh, said the child. Then she thought about that moment and said, well, you know, if God's going to stay up all night, there's no sense in both of us staying awake. And it's true. So with that, the little girl turned over in bed, pulled up her blanket to her neck, and fell asleep. That's a repeated theme in Scripture. Waiting on Yahweh. Over and over again in the Bible, wait on Yahweh. Psalms 27, verse 14, wait on Yahweh. Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say, on Yahweh. How are you supposed to wait? Psalms 5 verse 3. My voice shall thou hear in the morning, O Yahweh. In the morning will I direct my prayer unto thee, and will look up. I lay my request before you and wait in expectation. How could I possibly wait on Yahweh in expectation? Well, I can wait in expectation because I know Yahweh has acted in the past. And because he's acted in the past, I'm confident that he will act in my life in the future. So I wait in expectation, knowing Yahweh will act in my life. Because he's done it. I'm here. I know he did. The way I know Yahweh has acted in the past is if I learn to look for the leftovers. How do you know Yahweh will supply my needs? I look at the leftovers. The 12 disciples are sitting in the boat looking at one loaf of bread, wondering how they are going to split it up between them. And Yeshua says, don't you remember? When I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many basketfuls of pieces did you pick up? And you can almost hear them shyly say, 12. And then I broke 7 loaves for 4,000. How many basketfuls of pieces did you pick up? And they answered, 7. He said to them, do you still not understand? Look at the leftovers, Yeshua says. Learn to look for what Yahweh has done for you in the past. I've been blessed with a whole list of leftovers. If you sit down, even you can think of things Yahweh has done in your life over the years. We are hardly ever the hero in those stories. Yahweh is the hero. They are his stories. They are the stories of how Yahweh has fulfilled all our needs according to his glorious riches in Messiah Yeshua. I got a boatload of leftovers that I've seen in my life. But now, what if you don't have those personal leftovers to chew on? What if you're new to the faith? Or what if you haven't had much experience with Yahweh's kindness in your life? Well, if you don't have your own personal leftovers, Yahweh says, here, let me give you a few. That's what Romans 15 verse 4 is talking about when we are told, for whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. Everything that was written in the past was written to teach us, so that through endurance and the encouragement of the scriptures we might have hope. Everything Yahweh has written down here in the Bible was meant to be a snack food for us. It was all written for you. When you read about Joseph being sold in slavery and then unjustly thrown into prison, that was written for you. When you read about David facing off against giants he had no business fighting, that was written for you. When you read about Esther facing possible death to save her people, that was written for you. When you read about Daniel being thrown into the lion's den and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego being thrown into the fiery furnace, those stories were written for you. Those stories were all written down so you would see real people facing real problems. People who may have struggled with their faith. Most of the time these people struggled, but ultimately obeyed Yahweh. And because they were willing to obey Yahweh, even in their fears and doubts, Yahweh worked a miracle in their life. Those tales were not written down so you would have a bedtime story to read to your kids. They were written down so that through endurance and encouragement of the scriptures, you might have hope. If you don't have your own leftovers to feed off of those stories. I pity the person who refuses to accept these stories as real. I feel sorry for folks who don't believe what Yahweh has written down for them, because they go to bed hungry. They have nothing to feed their hunger for hope and a future. They don't believe in an Elohim who can supply all their needs for them according to his glorious riches in Messiah Yeshua. Now, does that mean I should sit back and do nothing but wait on Yahweh? Do I just sit in my easy chair and put my feet up and say, "Que sera, sera, whatever will be," and just don't do anything? No, that's not the way this works. When Yeshua fed the 5,000, do you know what he asked his disciples? How many loaves do you have? Mark 6:38, 5 loaves, 2 fish. When Yeshua fed the 4,000, do you know what he said to his disciples? How many loaves do you have? Mark 8:5, 7 loaves. Are you sensing a pattern here? What do you have to give to Yahweh? What can you supply? And then give it. But Frank, it's not enough. That's okay. Yahweh will make up the difference. If Yahweh wants 10 and all you have is 2, Yahweh will make up the difference. If he wants you to believe so strongly in the fact that he can do what he promises, that sometimes he expects you to pony up and do what you can. Not because he needs your strength or your resources or your influence in the miracle. Yahweh wants you to be partner with him in his miracle. He wants you to share in the wonder of what he's going to do in your life. He wants to give you a story all your own. Now, one last thought. I like leftovers, but I can get real tired of them after a while, and sometimes I just want to go out in town and get a meal that I haven't cooked. So you go to Pizza Hut or go to Corral or whatever tickles your fancy, but you don't do it often. But when I do, I really enjoy it. We need the spiritual leftovers Yahweh gives us. They are important for us to feed on. But you know, the day is coming when we won't have to be eating spiritual leftovers. One day, Yahweh is going to prepare a great banquet just for us, and there won't be one leftover on the table. Luke 13:29. They shall come from the east and from the west, from the north and from the south, and shall sit down in the kingdom of Yahweh. In Revelation 19:9. And he said unto me, Right blessed are they which are called unto the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said unto me, These are the true sayings of Yahweh. It's going to be a special meal. And we will never be hungry again. And we will not need to worry about leftovers ever again, because we will be forever in Yahweh's presence and eating at his table. Yahweh bless.